All right, we're back with another scorching episode of I'd Lather Be Shaving.
I'm Douglas Smythe from PhoenixShaving.com.
And I'm Matt Pisarcik from Razor Emporium. Today, we're diving in on misconceptions of razors.
Revisited.
Revisited.
It's true. We've covered something like this in the past books. In fact, I think we called it Misconceptions. That's why we're calling this one Misconceptions Revisited. But there's so many little things out there that really irk us. And it's just, well, they're misconceptions, folks. And you hear them over and over again in forums and groups. Jargon.
Jargon.
Where people tend to repeat stuff they don't really know much about.
No.
They've just heard others talk about it. And it seems like the thing to talk about.
It's
like an echo chamber.
It's a game of telephone, yeah, echo chamber. They just say here and they pass it on. It's like why do people say that the Merkur 34 HD is a perfect starter razor?
Or the 89, the EJ89.
They say it because...
Even when they have been using other razors, since 12 years ago it might have been, but there's so many other razors that have come out since then, but they automatically go into this default mode of what to recommend.
Yes.
And that's just one example. So we're going to cover a few of them, starting with...
Actually, I want to, before we get to hardware,
Did we even do the intro?
Oops.
Hey, we did it enough. Look, it's fine.
Intro!
Okay, so misconception number one. It's all
That
about
we know what the hell we're doing.
BBS shave. What does BBS stand for? Speaking of jargon.
Baby butt smooth.
Baby butt smooth shave. So this is a misconception that first off, everyone can get a BBS, number one. And number two, this should be your goal. Those are the two kind of a part one, part two misconception. So I would say number one, that everyone can get a BBS. False. No matter how many times I've tried, if I get that BBS, that so glass smooth shave that you can't feel any more stubble,
It's like stroking a fish.
I pay for it the next day or later that day with horrible irritation and or ingrown hairs. So I ask myself, is that worth it? And the answer is no, because I'm doing double-edged shaving to have a better appearance, to look good, my skin looks good. And the opposite of that is some arbitrary rule that if I go like this, like this.
Oh, it's teeth.
That you're gonna hear stubble. Like, who's in your bathroom with a credit card swiping you to see if you have any stubble left? Nobody.
Oh. Well,
Were you thinking of someone who actually is in your bathroom?
there is someone actually in my
Fran.
bathroom.
Fran.
What I want to say is too many people chase the BBS shave,
Yes.
and in doing so, they end up hurting themselves, doing more harm than good. When in all actuality, it's kind of our hair deceiving us. Because what goes on, folks, is when you shave, the hair on your face absorbs about 30% of its own weight of water. It's absorbed, it's fat. So when you're done with your shave, when you've done your third pass in, maybe you're doing a touch-up pass because you still feel stuff there, don't chase that. Don't chase the BBS shave. And I think that's what Matt's talking about when he hears people saying that. But there is some truth to that. When the stuff you are feeling that you're hitting with a touch-up when you're doing your fourth and fifth pass, or even your third pass, don't. Because it's deceiving you. What you're feeling is the water, the hair that's absorbed all this water. Again, 30% more. So after the shave, about a half an hour after the shave, that's going to go back down. It's no longer going to be swollen up. And so stop there. When you still feel the hair, don't chase it.
Go for par.
Trust me.
Go for par.
Go for damp fine shave while you're still damp.
Yes.
But a half an hour later, it's going to shrink back down and it'll be fine. It won't be there. You'll have a baby butt smooth shave.
And this is another reason why I do cold water shaving, because it actually tightens the skin. And I found I get a really close shave with just one pass. And if you guys have watched my videos, I just do a little bit of mild blade buffing as I'm going. And when I'm all done and my skin goes back to room temperature, it's great. It's wonderful.
It wasn't until I realized that was what was going on. Is that the hair is swollen with water, which is great. That's what you want for your shave, so there's more for the razor to bite onto. But again, you can't trust it. When you think there's still more to go, it's not.
Right.
Give it a half an hour, and you get a damn fine shave, or you get a BBS shave, in fact.
So misconception number two I want to talk about, I got a beef with it, is quality of razors. So a lot of people like to say that, oh, well, just get any razor. They're all the same. How could they really be different, Oh, okay.
Oh.
And that couldn't be further from the truth. If you guys have been in the wet shaving world for any length of time, even just a few weeks, a few months, there's a difference between maybe that Vanderhagen that's at Target versus a milled stainless steel razor. There's a massive difference in quality, and it's not just quality of shave; it's quality of the product. So this is a razor that we had in recently.
Build quality.
Yeah, build quality. This is a razor we had in recently. I just want to show, and I know these close-ups, we'll have to do some other close-ups of these, but...
Oh, we'll do these close-ups right here.
Okay, there we go. And look at that. Look at how that metal is just
the
so
plating is like
horrible. It
just looks hand-hammered,
blotchy.
but you know it's not supposed to.
And then the crazy thing, we were looking at this earlier, trying to put them together. Remember how they were having issues with coming apart?
They stick together.
And you can't even...
And not only that, is they're not symmetrical, so you have more blade overhang on one side than the other, or exposure.
So that's an example of a really poorly sand cast razor. And even this knurling has a bunch of big notches and gouges in it. And
stains.
Yeah, we don't need to say what brand this is because we're not here to rip. We're just here to educate you to what to look for.
That not all razors are created equal. So
No.
whenever anyone says that, they're either selling something that's really cheap, or they don't know what they're talking about. And the same thing they say for blades too. Some guys say all blades are the same.
No. Yeah, that's the number one thing with new customers. Oh, yeah, I hear these horror stories. Oh, I tried DE shaving, but I got a horrible shave. My first question is, what blade did you use? Well, whatever came with it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hold on, did you try like 5 or 10 brands before you gave up? No. I mean, how could they be any different? It's just a blade. That couldn't be further from the truth.
No, and the reason why a lot of us consciously gravitate from cartridge razors to multi-blade DE shaving is because you can finally customize the shave to your own unique face with all the different components.
Tailor it.
Yes. So experiment, folks, if you're just starting out. Find the razor that works for you, the blade that works for you. Sampler packs of all is what it all comes down to. Hang with a blade sampler pack for at least 2-3 months before you decide which is your brand, because they're all going to be different. Bevel edge, weight,
coating,
everything.
Yeah.
Find what works for your own unique face. Don't rely on just one and assume that's how it's going to be, or how it is.
And speaking of blades, we brought some calipers because Doug had something he said in season 1, wasn't it? About thickness of blades.
I was saying blades back in the day were heavier, and and
thicker.
And people from certain forums were correcting me, not to me directly, but I was reading stuff they wrote about me, or wrote about this statement saying I was wrong, I didn't know what I was talking about. So we brought out the calipers, folks, because I want to clear this one up. Blades back in the day were thicker and they were heavier.
About 10,000ths of an inch thicker.
Yeah.
Versus a new modern blade.
So we have a modern blade here right now. We have a Bolzano, I think. Is that what it is?
Well, this is a Paul Silver.
Paul Silver.
And so we got about 40,000ths of an inch.
So that's even thinner than the Bolzano.
Yeah, the Bolzano was 50.
Yeah.
And then this old Gillette, the old 3-holer, as I call them, this guy is 6,500.
Hey, thanks.
65,000ths of an inch, sorry.
For not saying that's what they used to call me in gym class. Yeah, so that's the thickest one right there.
Yeah, so 25,000ths of an inch skinnier. So
and then we have the Gillette blue blade.
I think it says 50.
Ah! Damn it!
Are you being serious?
Yeah, you got me good.
Oh. Suck it up, sucker. 60,000ths of an inch. Did I really get you?
You got me, yeah.
With the blade?
See, look at it. No, with the calipers. That was real, folks. We got real.
So these guys, back in the day, Gillette would call their razors adjustable because you would lock these. Well, I can maybe try to demonstrate on this guy. You would put this blade in here, and because it was thicker and carbon steel, not so flimsy.
See, that's what they were saying. They were saying blades. They were saying about what my comment was, that they weren't different width; they were different metals.
You could load this on and do a twist adjustable, and the blade itself actually was so stiff that it would change the blade gap, and you can see that
resistance. Yeah,
it really is. So.
Oh yeah, and that's why I highly recommend picking up some nice vintage blades sometimes, just to experience what it was like using some of these blades.
Make sure there's no rust.
Yeah, rust
clean,
is bad.
original packaging.
Yeah.
So there's another thing we want to talk about: a misconception of the Holy Trinity.
The Father, Son, and the Holy.
No, Doug.
Oh, Ghost.
We're going to talk about angle,
Geometry.
gap, and width. And here, since Doug's not going to be in this scene right now. So, the Holy Trinity. We have width, gap, and angle. So I always hear people talk about blade gap. Do you hear that, Doug?
Oh my God. Blade gap, blade exposure, negative, positive exposure.
Gap.
This is the lingo I'm talking about, folks, that people repeat over and over again.
Just
They don't know what the hell they're talking about.
They'll send me an email. What's the gap of your ambassador razors?
Oh, yeah. I know.
What's this gap? How does it compare to that gap?
And I can tell you, I can put 5 razors in front of you, vintage, modern, all with the same blade gap, and none of them will feel the same on your face.
And it's because when you talk about gap alone, it's like talking about one side of a triangle. And it's the gap between the safety razor bar and the blade. Here's your gap. Geometry. But this angle at which the blade is set is completely different from every manufacturer. I can tell you The Rex razors are a 20-degree angle. Other ones are a lot more shallow, like 15, 17, 12. I mean, I remember the Pills razors were almost flat, like no angle at all.
Oh, I remember the Pills.
And then last but not least is guard width. So again, you can have a giant gap, but if your guard itself, well, I'll use this. If your guard itself is sticking out farther, it doesn't matter how much gap there is, how much blade's showing, because it won't even get to your fur.
Exactly. That's like blade exposure too.
Yes, we can get rid of this now.
Okay. Blade exposure. I mean, like you can have a huge blade exposure, but that's just the exposure. That's the blade you're seeing.
Yes, that's how much blade's
It's not feel.
coming out over. That's what they say. If you put an angle like this, well, here, we'll show you this picture from Gillette. But more or less, that if you have the blade that comes over the safety bar, then you have more blade feel. And if it's behind the safety bar, you won't feel the blade.
Yes. Yes.
So there is some truth to negative and positive exposure, but again, that's just part of the equation. Depending on the gap, depending on the width, the angle, that exposure can be something that is not always apples to apples. It can be apples to oranges. Some people are like, oh, well, this is negative exposure, this one's positive exposure, blah, blah, blah. I'm not gonna like the way it shaves. I'm not gonna even try it. I'm like, how are you gonna just guess that you're not gonna like something based off of reading a bunch of statistics about it? You have to try it.
Yeah. Another thing. 30 shaves out of one blade.
Oh, God.
I hear this all the time, you know, guys bragging about this. And I get it, maybe it's a personal challenge or whatnot. But the thing is, this is like a carryover from cartridge razors where blades cost, you know, $20 for a 4-pack of cartridge razors. So you want to get the most shaves you can out of it. Whereas now we're using double-edged blades where they cost pennies, mere pennies. So don't push the blade, because at the end of the day, the more shaves you take with one blade, the more damage you're doing to your face. You always want to use a sharp blade whenever you're shaving.
Your face is worth it, people.
A few pennies. Seriously.
Or nickels.
So I say 3 to 5 shaves most out of the blade.
Yeah.
You'll have some guys argue, no, I can get 10. You can get 10.
Sure.
You probably can get 30 too. But at the microscopic level, at the level you're shaving at, you're doing more damage and more harm to your skin.
You can also use
Don't
toilet paper 3 times.
On your face? That takes hair off?
No, on your butt.
This got weird. Anyways, so don't ever push the blades, folks. If it's a challenge or whatnot, fine. But you don't have to. I'm giving you permission to throw it out after 3 or 5 shaves.
Oh yeah, this. I put that blade in there about 2 years ago, and it just disintegrated.
Yeah. So you don't need to throw it out. You can stick it in a bottle of water.
But just
Not salt water. This is water. If you do salt water, it dissolves even faster.
It just turned to rust, people. Just ashes to ashes, dust to dust. The turning of time. Father, time.
Message in a bottle.
Okay.
Pásame la botella. No. Okay, anyways, folks.
Weird.
So that's pretty much the misconception episode. I hope we covered everything we planned on. Am I skipping over anything?
I don't think so. I think that was most of our misconceptions. Busted again.
Just playing. Anyways, folks, thanks for joining. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and you could win. That's right, a Star Jelly aftershave and matching shave soap. Not necessarily this one, but one nonetheless, 2, in fact, combined. So, yeah, that's all I got.
Share this with your friends on the forum next time you hear bad jargon or misconceptions and prove them wrong with our video.
Yeah, you tell them Matt said that. You tell them.
Well, okay. See you guys.